Peter is the top senior research lab tech for NCI, NanoGen Corp International. He has worked on many medical projects. This includes one very secret project contracted by the JCD, Justice and Corrections Department. The medical project has just been completed. However, Peter does not know what it was about. Peter is sitting at his bench doing a new research endeavor. He is investigating a new approach to stopping the aging process by enriching the mitochondrial protein mix. So far, this has proven extremely effective. His test subject insects have a life expectancy of 1 week under normal conditions. The insects have survived for 3 months thus far and still show no signs of aging. Suddenly, without warning, 7 people come to his bench. One is the lab's supervisor, her name is Mandy. One is a man in a grey tweed suit with dark sunglasses and a pencil-thin tie. 2 are armed police officers with their weapons drawn. And 3 are obviously federal police officers. The person in the tweed suit produces a badge that says Office of Imposter Investigations. "Can I help you, gentlemen?" Peter stammers, with a dreadful effort at sounding calm. The man asks in a very arrogant tone. "Are you Peter Hammond?" Peter admits that's who he is. He manages even in his terror to wonder at the man's stupidity and pettiness, as his name is clearly written on his lab coat. The man produces a federal arrest warrant and hands it to Peter. He says, "I am arresting you for impersonating Peter Hammond." "Are you out of your mind?" he can't help but exclaim, incredulous. The man in the tweed continues, "Come along quietly or there will be serious trouble." Peter exclaims, "I know who I am. I have documents, I've worked here for years. Everyone I know will vouch for me. What the heck is all this about?" The armed men now have cocked their weapons and are pointing them at Peter. Peter says with fear in his voice, "Jesus. All right, I'll come." Peter turns to the supervisor and pleads with her to vouch for him. Mandy stands with obvious fear on her face too. One of the federal police says quietly, "It has come to our attention that you are not who you claim to be. You are in fact a young girl and not the man you claim to be." The 3 men look at each other with a slight nod and then he continues. "Is this not true?" The denial sticks in his throat. Peter is suddenly worried. There have been incidents. Times when he has experimented with women's clothes, and the like. However, is that really arrestable? The man in the tweed suit produces a pair of handcuffs and roughly cuffs Peter. He says, "You are in violation of the True to Yourself Act that was imposed because of the presidential debacle of 2108. Peter's supervisor gasps and looks at him incredulously and says, "You didn't, did you?" She has a most surprised look on her face and her hand to her mouth. Peter hardly knows what to say. He is worried about not being a real man from time to time. About wanting to dress as a woman. Disliking most male pursuits, and so on. However, he has always tried to put it to the back of his mind. Or at least deny it completely. That was the problem with thought crime. You often didn't realize you were guilty until the officers turned up on your doorstep. The man in the grey tweed suit produces a pad and stylus. He asks in an arrogant tone, "What's your real name, age, and gender?" Peter realizes there is no point at this stage waving his birth certificate in their faces. His only option is to delve deep into his fantasies, and find that suppressed self. It comes to him. He replies with fear in his voice. "Patricia. Age unknown. I'm a girl." Peter's supervisor gasps loudly again and turns and runs. One of the federal police takes a device out of his coat and points it in her direction. The green lights turn amber and flash as words appear on the small screen. He says to the others, "There's another imposter, this one is a baby girl." There is a cell phone call made as Peter watches incredulously. The man in the grey tweed takes Peter by his handcuffed arms and says, "Let's go to the station, the Inquisitor will want to talk with you, sweetie." He is rough as he pulls you towards the door. Please, Peter feebly protests. I tried my best. It's not as if I've been hurting anyone. The man in the tweed replies. Oh really? You think you haven't hurt yourself with all the fear and shame you caused yourself? Peter was led out through the research floor. Everyone is whispering loudly. You see your supervisor in handcuffs, another federal team has her now. The federal agent says loudly as you walk. You have the right to remain silent. Anything you say can and is used against you. You have no right to any legal advice as an inquisitor has already been appointed for you. What's going to happen to me, is all Peter dares ask. One of the federal agents replies. Why Patricia, you are going to be who you really are. Another one chimes in. Yes, for the rest of your life. Won't that make you happy? Peter is led to a police paddy wagon while everyone Peter knows at the company watches. Peter sees Mandy being placed into another paddy wagon. Peter endures the trip in dejected silence. What can they mean? Surgery? Brainwashing? Then reintroduce him into society. A mental and physical wreck. For all his old family and friends to be ashamed of. The trip is unusually long, giving Peter a very long time to ponder many scenarios. None too pleasant. The vehicle stops and he can hear the door to the paddy wagon unlock. Peter is roughly removed from the back of the vehicle. He hears a woman that's standing by the entrance to the building demand they treat you as a person of a much younger age should be properly treated. Immediately, they begin to treat Peter with much respect but are still stern. Peter is led into the building behind the woman into what appears to be a courtroom full of people. She puts on an ebony black robe with red trim and sits behind a podium. She bangs a gavel. The room becomes silent as a grave. She speaks authoritatively. My name is Mistress Jenny. I am the head inquisitor. What is your birth name and your true name, please? She looks at Peter with a strange look of sympathy on her face. Peter. And Patricia. He mutters, looking down at his feet. She replies in a soft voice. You are accused of violating the True to Yourself Act of 2110. I am here to determine the validity of this charge. Are you ready? He nods, helplessly. She removes a device from under the podium and sets it on top of the podium. The clerk, who has been typing all this time, stands. Walks briskly over to Peter, and places a golden ring over his head. She then returns to her seat. There she begins to type furiously again. The Inquisitor pushes a button on the device on the tabletop. Suddenly, in the air. In full color. Sound. And real-time emotion. All the experiments and play Peter has been doing as Patricia appears for all to see. Peter sees it all. Dressing up as a kid. Lying desperately about the tights in his drawer. Trying on his mother's lipstick. Dressing up completely as a little girl on many occasions. The humiliation and shame at being caught dressed as a little girl. The punishment in full emotional detail as well. The Inquisitor has a very soft and pitying look. Peter cannot hold back tears of shame. The Inquisitor says softly, Bailiff, bring the young lady a tissue and remove those horrible handcuffs. She's only young and should be better treated under my Inquisition. The bailiff immediately removes Peter's handcuffs and hands him a box of baby powder-smelling tissues. He cannot help but feel slightly comforted by the Inquisitor's manner, as he takes the tissues gratefully. However, the tears continue to fall. The images of Peter dressing as the little Patricia pass in the holo image for all to see. All the fear and humiliation of being caught and the shame is also conveyed in total real time. There are many tears in the audience box. Peter realizes that no one is making fun of him, but are in deep sympathy. Peter is almost reassured. However, a team of rather serious-looking white-coated figures waiting in a nearby doorway cannot help but make him apprehensive. The Inquisitor asks Peter softly, Miss Patricia Hammond, we have just observed your sin recording of who you really are. You have been found guilty, by a court of law, of been impersonating Peter Hammond. Have you anything to say before sentence is passed on you and judgment is fulfilled? Peter shakes his head silently. Dejected and afraid once more by her stern legal tone and worrying what those medtechs are going to do to him. Mistress Jenny says very sternly. In that case, you have been found guilty of impersonating a 26-year-old male by the name of Peter Hammond. You are hereby sentenced to be rehabilitated and genetically gender reassigned and shall be henceforth Miss Patricia Hammond. You will be regressed and your life shall be reorganized to reflect this change. This order is to be carried out immediately. Mistress Jenny asks softly. Are you sure you have nothing to say, sweetheart? Two stern-faced techs walk up and take hold of Peter by his arms. Peter stammers. Please. What do you mean, reorganized? What about everyone who knows me? Jenny smiles and says softly. Everything you know. Will know you from this day forward as Patricia Hammond, sweetheart. You will be the same tech at Nanogen. Except. You will be the nanogenetic whiz kid. She signs and stamps several papers. She then continues in the same soft voice. Everything about you will now be true to yourself. Peter is still afraid. But there is a rising sense of hope. Except he can hardly believe this is possible. The Inquisitor says in a very stern voice to the team of techs. You will treat Miss Hammond with the utmost gentility and respect. You may proceed. The two techs that have hold of Peter gently escort him into the other room. Peter allows himself to be led along, but cannot help trembling slightly. The door shuts. Peter sees this is one of the most advanced laboratories for genetic research he has ever seen. He realizes what the secret projects he had been doing were all about. He sees a lot of his newly invented and designed equipment everywhere. A tall blonde tech asks softly. Do you want to unrobe, or shall we do it for you? We need you on that table. Peter sees a very shiny silver metal lab table with locking straps. Peter starts to unrobe, slowly. Then remembers he is wearing tights on underneath, and hesitates. Looking for a place he can undress privately. But cannot see one. There are suddenly three techs who take hold of Peter. They begin to quickly unrobe him. He has no choice. He is being placed gently on the table and he can hear the locks on the straps clicking closed. The table is freezing cold next to Peter's skin. He struggles in vain against the techs, then the straps. It is all pointless. He realizes what is coming he has no choice in. He is feeling altogether vulnerable and miserable. The compassion of the Inquisitor overwhelmed by the clinical atmosphere. The sterile decor. The clamps. Syringes. An equipment that he recognizes from the secret rehab project he worked on. The equipment which he never knew the true function of. For he only knew its capabilities for restructuring neural pathways. Which contributes hugely to this feeling. He imagined it was for desperate cases of criminal insanity. Certainly not for him. He wonders if he will have any memory left after this experiment. But dares not ask. He knows he cannot stop it, and would sooner be ignorant. One of the techs has started filling a very large syringe with a silvery liquid. One of the other techs puts an rig into Peter's elbow. The tech says, "This is a saline solution to keep your vein open. This procedure is fast and will be very disorienting and just a small bit painful." She pats you softly and reassuringly as the other tech approaches with the syringe. What will happen to me? To my mind? Peter asks, hesitantly and weakly. The tech says softly and gently. The injection is a genetic gender reassignment protocol. It will reassign you to be a female. We are adding a new protocol that will also make cellular structure become younger. The tech with the needle says softly. We have a training file that we will give you in about an hour. This will help in reorganizing your thought patterns so you can adjust to the reassignment. She injects the huge shot into the drip tube. Peter sees the silvery liquid as it runs down the tube into his arm. Peter instinctively steels himself to resist but knows it is foolish and futile. It reaches his arm. It is seriously hot and cold all at the same time. He can feel it spread up his arm. His skin begins to crawl. His heart is pounding as his body begins to hurt in a way he had never imagined before. They were not exaggerating about the pain. Now he only wished he could pass out. Peter suddenly notices that the straps locking him to the table are getting very large on his wrists and ankles. The pain eases slightly, and a tingling numbness predominates. Through the haziness, it is hard to be sure of anything. The figures standing around are blurred, and their curious scientific observations of the experiment are indistinct. However, it seems to him as if his whole skin is becoming clearer, smoother, softer. The pain has almost gone. But for a dull aching in his chest. One of the technicians said in awe. This is working far better than anticipated. Patricia Hammond opens her eyes. She is now a female who is the foremost authority on nanogenetic research on the planet. Her whole existence is alive and tingling. She feels elated. She remembers the male she used to be too. She is overjoyed it is only a memory. She knows now she is a real girl. She can't believe it. As Patty is released from the chair, she giggles happily. She runs across the room and twirls before the mirror. Then runs over and affectionately hugs the female tech, to whom she is developing almost daughterly feelings. Mandy toddles up and hugs Donna's legs too. She says in an adorable baby voice, TNX. Be happy. So am I. Thank you so much, declares Patricia. She dances ecstatically around the lab. As she does so she shows a good deal of ruffles with each twirl. Donna says softly, "Okay, girls, this is who you really are. Do you think the law is a just one? Or no? You decide. Time to meet the world ladies. The Inquisitor awaits." Donna picks up Mandy and carries her back to the door leading to the court. She opens the door and many soft voices filter in. Patricia follows, suddenly feeling shy and awkward again. There is a bailiff at the door. He takes Mandy from Donna's arms and holds his hand out to Patty. He has a radiantly handsome face that Patty can't help but notice. New emotions run intensely through her. Patricia blushes, smiles, and curtsies as she passes through the door and takes his offered hand. The touch of his hand is exquisite. He escorts Patty gently by the hand back in front of the podium. Mistress Jenny has a very pleased expression on her face. She says brightly, "Is this Patricia Hammond and baby Mandy?" Mandy gurgles agreement adorably. "Yes, miss," mumbles Patricia, embarrassed but very, very happy. There are many oaths and soft giggles from the audience box. Mistress Jenny at this time bangs the gavel one time sharply. She says in her authoritative voice, "I declare this case closed. All rights and proper documentation are now completed. Inquisition adjourned." A loud hubbub of happy voices erupts. Patricia turns to the female tech and says with much joy in her voice, "Thank you so much. This is so wonderful. But what happens to us now?" Donna says softly, "Well, Patty, you do have memory of your apartment." She hands you an adorable leather pocketbook with tassels. Donna continues, "And you are the foremost authority on nanogenetic engineering. It was your formula and electronic breakthroughs that made this all possible. Donna takes Patty by the hand after picking up Mandy. She says softly, "Besides, I have always wanted a baby daughter and one about your age. That is, if you're willing." Mandy makes the cutest gurgling noises as she hugs Donna's neck. Patricia blushes. "I'd love to be your daughter," Donna says brightly. "Okay, it's settled then. Shall we go to the apartment first? To get, settled in?" Patricia nods her assent. She is still shedding happy tears. Donna takes Patricia's hand and begins to leave the courtroom. She says, "What would you like to do later? Go to the mall? We can have dinner at the spaghetti warehouse. The pasta there is to die for." Patty giggles gleefully. "Yes, please. I'd love to. Everyone can see me, like this, my true self." Donna takes Patty out to the parking area. Patty heard several of the people they passed say softly among themselves how adorably cute Mandy was. And that Patty was the prettiest girl they had seen. She can't help but giggle with joy. Donna unlocks the door on her BMW. She sets Mandy in a car seat that just happened to be in the back. Donna says gleefully, "I just knew that you girls would love to come with me." She fastens Mandy into the car seat in the back of the car. She coos and gurgles softly in a most adorable way and pulls the seat back. Donna stands and smiles at Patty sweetly. She then walks around the car and gets in. Patricia climbs in, delighting as the breeze plays around her bare, smooth legs and plays with her skirt. The drive to the apartment was short, but a lot of fun. Patricia even had several of the young boys at the apartment ask her if she would go to the movies with them soon. Patricia is ecstatic. Donna takes Mandy from the car and shuts the door and locks it. She walks around and opens Patricia's door. Donna says, "Remember this. It's home." Patricia climbs out and takes Mandy gently out of Donna's arms. In Patty's mind, yes, this is my apartment. She remembers Donna and Mandy being there too. Donna giggles as if she read Patty's mind and said, "It's the reorganization." Patty looks at Donna with amazement as she winks. Donna and Patricia walk to the door and enter the apartment. It is a most lavishly furnished huge apartment. Thick carpets everywhere. A huge flat-screen TV hung in the sunken living room. Wall-to-wall electronics. Extremely expensive mahogany and teak wood furniture. Little electronic robot toys moving in recognition of their master's arrival. Donna says, "Welcome home, girls." To Patricia's surprise, a police officer steps out of her old bedroom. He carries a clear plastic bag full of her old suits, ties, pants, underwear, and so on. The bag has printed on it, "For impound recycling." Patty is unconcerned, knowing their trip to the mall will amply replace the loss. The officer says, "The nursery is the last door on the left. Have a wonderful day, ladies." Workmen leave the nursery, carrying leftover rolls of pink floral wallpaper. The new decor is all in place, they announce as they quickly leave. Patricia skips into the room. She shows lots of ruffles as she does. Donna rubs noses with the cooing and giggling Mandy. Donna takes her back to the nursery and lays Mandy in the crib. The room is beautifully decorated in the pink floral wallpaper. There is a soft pink chest of drawers with little white lambs adorning the drawers. On top, there was a little Bo Peep lamp with little fuzzy animal toys neatly arranged. A large toy box sat next to the closet. On top, a huge brown fluffy teddy bear Saturday. Over the crib hung a puppy mobile for baby to play with. There are glow-in-the-dark stars and cartoon characters on the ceiling. Mandy gleefully played with her feet as she gurgles adorably. In the sunken living room, Patricia looks around. She absolutely can't believe it. She has actually become her wildest fantasy. She has an apartment she could have only dreamed about the day before. Patty Hammond says, with absolute, joyous acceptance, "I'm home." And I am me.